So, before I go sit on my computer, there is this one thing I need to get off my mind and, just throw it into the void where everyone is of noise. And it's one of those things that once once I find out, I know it's already too late. Essentially, there's been just a bunch of a lot of artists were invited to test out these AIs, artificial intelligences that can generate images based on text prompts. And these are artificial AIs that have been fed millions and millions of images and can multidimensionally lock them into something else, like create something else from mixing and recognizing patterns into something new. And essentially, what happened is people have been posting this, and it's let's just say that I've been saving a lot of them, and if you told me an artist did them, then they would become one of my favorite artists. There's multiple variant styles, all types of things coming from this. Some people use it raw, some people use it painted over because they're already professional artists. But what I'm really worried about this is the displacement that it will cause. It's until now been in my mind that creative jobs and just creativity in general will be one of the last things to be tackled by artificial intelligence. But it's actually one of the first, it seems, because we've been seeing here is not just the ability to create anything from any context, but also multiple variations of it that can look as good as any painting with as many fundamentals and styles as they want. And what does that say to upcoming artists? What does that say in the age of social media where exposure, likes, and all that stuff is credit? It there will to me it will all add so much further to the noise, to the saturation, when there will be no distinction between someone who has been sharpening their skills on this very difficult area, on this very creatively required area where it requires, it's not a job that you can do without experience. It requires decades of experience to specialize in one aspect of art, and even to develop a style is not always guaranteed. So to see something like this, it is on one way discouraging, but on another way, it should be exciting and liberating, but it isn't. And I want to into that, and so I will. For me. There will be a lot of people, given enough time, that will be anti AI. Right? They will march against this once jobs start being lost, to companies and even to freelance artists start losing their jobs because the clients go directly into the cheaper, safer, faster solution of AI. Um, However, as because even if you say, oh, an artist's touch is unique, oh, it's not real art, oh, um, we can kind of see it was made by an AI, it's like it's only going to get better. So all those things will only get better. They will not get worse. And the other thing is that it doesn't need to be better. It doesn't need to be perfect. It only needs to be like better enough. It only needs to be better than the artist because it can spit out thousands of images in minutes or less. And especially to clients, um, who have to put money on the game, that will be a very easy choice for them. And so all this, this what I want to get at is this should be liberating, but due to just the way we're structured, that we live in a consumer society, that is, I think that's the real diagnosis here. People will essentially diagnose this problem as the AI will take our jobs, and I feel there's going to be social upheaval, um, burn the witch type thing to anyone who uses AI, because so far it's been an invitation only thing. It's uses servers elsewhere, and only a selected few, who already are made artists, were by luck or by connection, um, like made a part of the project essentially in this beta, from what I know of. and that already implies, a lot of ine- inequality in how someone even starts, or in the job, like in the job tabula rasa or the starting point. It's completely already displaced just from the get-go. But even assuming that it becomes free and able to execute within your own computer, even though those two are completely different things, I still think that the way we are organized to, as a society, to consume, like we don't care where our trash goes, we don't care where our meat comes from. We're often just solely focused on the thing, on the product that gets to us, how it satisfies us, and how we can get more of it, often faster, cheaper. That's how we operate. Creativity is a means to an end, and it's not seen as an end in itself, as good in itself. And that is why this technology, that should be creatively liberating and fulfilling, will be essentially completely, it will be in danger, like it'll be dangerous to artists when you put it on a large enough scale. Um, it's going to be enslaving in a way. I'm not using the correct words, as you can see. I had a word in mind, but I'm not getting to it for some reason. But yeah, it should be liberating, but it's not. That's what I want to see. This is a one of the pieces of technology that has impressed me the most. You press, write essentially a specific Google search, the equivalent of a very specific Google search, and then you press a button, and then it gives you a masterpiece often, or something that can be turned into one, or variations of some that can turn into one. It's so far, it's only static images, but you can already see the potential for concept artists and illustrators to get their jobs replaced. Concept artists are very iterative. For example, they require lots of revision and consulting of their own clients. It requires such a big back and forth. Normally, to do multiple drawings of the same thing to get to the right thing, it's AI will do that in seconds. And as for illustrators, unless once again you're someone with a name to it, people won't care to say that it was done by you, so they'll care only for the final image. So they'll be completely content, especially if AI gets better. Whatever the service their software provides will result as. This is and this is something that even to those artists that have a name will likely use it, because you're no longer essentially, if you go, not using you're not using racing horses, no matter how fast they are, to travel to your job. You're using a car or even a train, so a piece of technology that replaced it. um, and I think it's very much the same here. Even those that already have a name to them will only use AI to make their process faster. And if it's an exclusive thing to people who have been invited to a program, or even just have a computer good enough to do it, which requires capital to invest into a good rig, then the displacement, essentially the bar that separates upcoming artists or rich artists from poor artists will be stretched so large that um, it will feel very pointless. I feel, to generations who are at the beginning of learning uh, how to draw or how to apply what they've learned from life into their drawings to create their style or whatever they want to express. It's already difficult to tackle those things due to how ubiquitous and monotonely, excruciatingly infindable social media is. It always feels like screaming into a void no matter what you say, and that only those things that are immediately recognizable in a social shared pattern, or like media that already exists and is already known in some sort of big culture or subculture, only those things can make a slight shake, a slight signal in this endless noise. To add AI generated images and probably sequences of images in the future to that, it's demoralizing when you attach money to it. because it won't be the career you think it will. What will you, as an upcoming artist, what is the line that you're going to put on paper if you know you can get better results immediately as a non-trained, like as someone who hasn't trained at all, just from prompting something on an AI? Or you can't do that and you only have your piece of paper, but you know you never will have a chance. That's essentially the paradigm we're kind of going to be shifting to. And as long as we live in a rapidly consume a rampant consuming society, I can't see new technologies like this being liberating. They're more uh, they're more aggravating than anything else. They're more encapsulating. They're gonna make us more and more so realize that human experience in the evolving society we're all a part of is becoming less and less relevant. Um, I don't think give it enough time, it's kind of not gonna matter where you someone who's endlessly scrolls on social media or someone who has read anything from Plato to Russell uh, to trying to create a new a new philosophy for the current age. It doesn't matter. Those two things will be on the same level, on the same bips and bits on the compute on the endless social media scape on the or mediascape in general. There won't be a differentiation for those who try and those who don't, because the tools will be so impressive that any human labor or endeavor can be immediately compared to a machine who can do it much faster, much better. And that's why I think in order to survive this and come out on the better ends, to make this amazing technology be amazing to ourselves, we have to march towards a society that views creation in itself, creativity, the, the thing that defines us, that defines our growth, to be the end in itself, to value it as a society that the making of things on our own, the scratch of the pen on the paper, the spark from the hammer on this, not the scalpel, yeah, the scalpel, whatever, the board, those things are what makes pattern recognition, what makes the longevity of life and any project that can last it to be worth it. If not, then we're all gonna outlast the world that made us who we are, and as such it's nearly impossible to conceive of lifelong projects or meanings to cultivate towards or to even live by if the world essentially keeps ending very rapidly. The world will always be ending faster and faster, and we'll always have to be making new adjustments to that inhumane, rapid change of paradigm over and over again. If you can't see this on this technology, then likely it will only get to you once people start making noise about it, because that's what it triggers. That's what who screameth the louder wins. That's essentially when it gets to your ears, because then it cannot be no longer ignored. But if you're not an artist, likely this is like asking, where does your trash go? Like you don't care. You watch the movie, you don't listen, you don't read the credits, you play the game, you don't care about the development hell, you don't care about those things. You're a consumer. You care about consuming the thing, moving on to the next thing. You don't think much more about it than you need to or you want to. So all those things are normal. All those things are likely what you are. And this isn't an insult or what you should be or not be. This is just an observation of what most people are due to the way society works. You go to McDonald's and you probably like Pokemon as an adult, even though you probably shouldn't. For you probably shouldn't, but it's been in there for so long. It's been cultivated as part of your life by entities that are outside of your control, much bigger than yourself, that you just see it in the background as if it's nature, as if you are an animal in nature. That's what they want and that's what they'll get. And those are the same types of companies that will likely try and grab this AI beast by the horns and make sure it'll be copyrighted or isolated in itself, so that they can max out productivity whilst others can't outplace them, can't outpace them. That's kind of how this thing works. Even something like YouTube is only valuable and powerful because it's constantly shutting down possibilities for something like it to exist. Um, it will becoming the one available thing that anyone can recognize, and as such, this is one thing that I think most people are wrong about when I see them talking about AI. They talk as if this is gonna take over the menial sides of the job, the menial parts like doing multiple frames in an animation, rendering little hairs because the client wants hyperrealism or some shit. That's not at all, especially from what we're seeing. If anything, the irony of life is gonna be that AI is gonna be doing the creative job, and you are going to be the laborious, intensive, brain dead job. You don't believe me? Just see an AI generating million different images of fantasy sci-fi. The client points at whatever few they want. Some guy edits them together into the final product. When it should be 15 or to 20 people on a concept art theme for a big company. No, it's just one guy editing it, kind of like replacing a bunch of factory workers by a guy who oversees machines. That's what's going to happen, and he is going to choose from those. Or, I mean, the client's going to choose from the thousands of pictures the AI does in minutes. Then that guy is going to edit them together, and then you, the factory workers, the factory workers will do all of that menial shit. You will. Hey Nick, are you listening to this? Because if you are, remember, the crown, the thing you're animating like over and over again, like someone else will design that prop for you. Like the AI will design that. Yeah, the AI will design all the props, and you will have to do the menial labor of going frame by frame and putting in the right place, because that's just how unpredictable and weird things can be. Maybe AI won't be that useful for the most boring parts in life, and will be more useful to take out the creative, fun parts of it. And you, because consumer culture demands it, because the product is far more important than the creation of it, even though there's infinite products out there already, of entertainment especially. It's because that's so much more important. You are going to be stuck in that menial job while the AI is going to do all the creativity. That's a possibility. Like, and that's insane. That's insane to think about it. That the way we work, that can happen. Like the way our entire industry and societies made, is gonna probably provide a future that's kind of like that. Like the fact that that's even a possibility, that in some field AI would take over creativity before it takes over the productivity, the actual production side of it, is insane. We no longer can apply it to the simple mechanical task of taking and leaving, putting, just what we consider to be mechanical simple tasks. Maybe AI is going to be way better creative than we are, considering we're still in the infancy of it all. So it is very interesting to me that people aren't like in the art community, I guess you could call it, quote unquote, online especially, the fact that people are taking all of this so lightly. Like the world works together, and even if people start complaining about AI, that'll only, it's kind of, you go to a doctor and you have a chronic problem that affects your whole body, but they diagnose a single organ, but it's the whole system that's affecting it as well. And people will target the AI and whatever, even if they succeed, imagine, it's not going to happen. It's going to grow regardless. But imagine if they succeed, well, some other technology is going to come, and its impact is also going to be not liberating and more enslaving to, the way we're supposed to work. I feel like that's what's going to happen. We just can't be taking this so lightly. We cannot be thinking that this will not mesh with other areas of life. I think I saw a video by Anthony Jones, and he's talking about, why should I care so much about this, to the point that because I know that there's this country in war, in Europe, the war on Ukraine, the whole Russian thing, and we just survived the pandemic. Like he's comparing to these big world issues, but bro, all of this is connected. The fact that we're going to be dealing with this in a first world's healthy quote unquote society, and some in somewhere else there is the starving African child, that's only going to make us more disconnected from those issues that are real and exist, because we're dealing with these more advanced issues because the world is not going all at the same pace at once. So yes, we should take in account all the factors that an existential crisis like this entails. We can't be look at this bigger problem, and I can't worry about this because of it. He also goes over that Mid Journey, one of the AIs being used, as a distinct style, and you can identify it. And sure, once again, you can sort of identify it as it is now. And even if it's very impressive, there are still bits and pieces that is like, oh, that looks way too perfect and put together and simultaneously too weird. So it's probably Mid Journey. And you're right, but you know who doesn't kind of care? Most people on social media who just like and share things, and clients who are really looking just to get the correct images for low prices, and to be as iterated, get them iterated upon to the point that they can just make more of and get their product finished. So the existential dread continues. It doesn't matter if you can identify it if it was made by an AI. I can identify if something was made with 3D, right? Well, it's at some point that was seen as cheating or photo bashing. Now it's used by everyone because it's so much more faster for the for production time, pipelines and even cost, that it's used by everyone. You think this will be different? You think people will care even about style? The people that matter, whether it's the brain dead consumer or the client with money, they won't care because they can make the relative judgment of things, and they know what they'll be losing on hiring actual someone than the money they can be saving on production. Now imagine this applied to things other than concept art and illustration. Once it starts covering 3D animation and all those other image generating processes, I can already imagine. A thing that's easier to imagine is like fractals, and from fractals you can go to FX. There's a bunch of ways this thing can go, and it's not important to theorize this. What's important is to maintain focus on what's at stake. And here's one thing that isn't at stake, and I don't care about, and you shouldn't either. And I don't want this to be the primary dominant um, topic on this whole thing. Okay, I do not care if AI art is considered art. I do not care whatever is considered art. Okay, it's going to be redefined to the end of time. I don't care. Is AR art really art? No, 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 no. I care about people losing jobs. I care about people spending their lives trying to create something, and then someone else without any without any creative input beforehand or any practice going in and creating something as amazing looking for most people on the planet, that they could in their entire lives of trying to create something and feeling demotivated by it, and the entire social zeitgeist that will come from that. That's what I care about. I care about people. I don't care about whether it's considered art. That's not gonna move me, and it shouldn't move you either. In terms of this topic, that should not dominate, okay, the conversation. We should not make that the focus. So if someone starts doing that, just let's get back to what's important here. um and yeah, that's been my existential dread in the past few days and a half. And I'm not gonna lie, even if I had access to these AIs, I don't know if I would feel much motivated. I think they can help me in my work, right? But it's one of those things that if everything changes, nothing does. If everyone can become um, able to generate amazing images at all times, like I've already seen people essentially growing from zero to like dozens of thousands of followers, making bank, who clearly do not have an eye or even taste. I've seen people saying taste is a new skill, but some people don't even have taste and they still make generated images that make them bank. It's that indistinguishable to a vast enough audience. That's where we're marching towards to. Like it doesn't matter. Your subjectivity here doesn't matter much compared to the collective indifference of the casual consumer of visual media. And it's unfortunate that most things are made to a massified taste. Essentially, I don't want to use the word dumb, but a very tasteless, um, mindless consumer. Those are mostly the people most things are made for, because of course they are. It only makes sense. That's kind of the end product of consumer society. You generalize things until the utmost, and it will keep going. And that's what this thing is going to be in service to, and what you will be in service to from. So question yourself. I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're able to even find this, because everything's so airtight, put together. You can barely crawl to find something um, that isn't already shoved down or made visible by their numbers. However, it is something you should contemplate on a long enough timeline, long term. You should think that even if you're concept artist working for a prestigious company or an illustrator who finds clients in freelance, but it only doesn't have more of a name, like you're not famous, then you should be questioning how this will change your life, because it will. It is a huge displacement, and in many cases downright replacement, that will affect all of us and the way we work. um, and that's scary. That's scary because it's different. But I'd like to be on the same wavelength as Craig Mullins, where he finds tiring that creation, like inventions like this, are always a source of fear. And in the same way, we all, just citizens of current modern society, we all live better than kings did hundreds of years ago. He thinks this is going to be one of those inventions that everyone will be better off. Only I think that only applies after some time has passed to adjust to this, and that some time can be long, can be a lot of time, considering how fast things evolve and how slow societies to keep up with their own evolutions. I think that might be on a timeline larger than we realize. And for now, I can only think of the now. It's very hard for me to think on if in 30 years this is going to be better for everyone. As someone who doesn't have a name to himself, like Craig Mullins or uh, you know Alphonse Jones, Anthony Jones, it's very hard to go that far into the future from my prediction. I care more about the immediate future, how this will affect you and me, and what can we do about it, what career choices can we do, or life choices in general, that will complement this or not be hurt by it so much as others will. I think that's the thing that we need to be thinking right now, because it is very unclear how this all will go. Everything can change at any point. There's no at this point I'm not going to say anymore, oh, AI will never do that. Oh, AI, it's going to take us so long of a time for AI to get there. No, at this point, it's completely unpredictable. I don't know what's going under the hood on many developers. Um, it's just going faster than we can think at this point. And if you're not, it is also a great creator of FOMO, because if you're not on the lookout forever, it's always going to go later to you than it will to some, and as such you will be late to life itself on how it's developing. From what I gather, just so this whole thing is not just existential dread. From what I gathered, this so far, from what we know, applies only to still images. I don't think, and I don't know for how long, but I don't think for quite a while this will affect sequential art as much as it does static ones. So if you do comics, if you do animation, you are safer. I don't think you're safe, but you are safer. If you don't do those things, then now might be a good time to start. 3D, even though I can see it being taken over very easily, depending on how it goes, it's still not on the pipeline of displacement from displacing jobs from AI, as far as I know. Um, However, it's yet another of those things. You have to be conscient of what's going on. I feel you can't just have like a lukewarm opinion anymore. You need to have a decisive opinion that's going to move you to certain places and do other things that you wouldn't otherwise. Um, so sequential art is a thing to consider. It's a thing to consider because it will take longer for AI to take over it. It requires multiple images and context between each image. Animation requires timing as well, and how long each image takes place on screen. So if you're a visual artist, animation and comics, sequential art in general, I think that's a way to go. I personally work in animation, not in the animation industry. I normally work for the music industry doing animated clips. I think even I will suffer a bit because likely some people will be able to use who have access to this AI technology will still find a way to use it for animation, and there might be an excitement from the side of the clients to go for this new technology that even though I feel like I'm outside this paradigm professionally, I still feel like I can be displaced in some sense, but I think I'm safer than most people who don't work in animation. Either way, I don't think I have been questioning the world for this long. From since the time I've seen NFTs. Oh, and by the way, NFTs are coming back. There's no way this technology won't make NFTs not come back. Like this is gonna make this is gonna bring all of those things on OpenSea, and it's kind of like sharing memes, except everyone will be able to generate their shit. Everyone will be able to generate their art, and because you won't really care about commissioning, and there's barely any care for the differentiation of genuine or AI made or high fidelity or just quickly processed. There's very little care for that. So NFTs are definitely gonna take full use of this once ready, or maybe they already are. Maybe you can prove me wrong right now that maybe they're just faster than I think. Maybe they're already coming back so in full force. So expect that. That's another thing to expect. We're giving all the greatest parts of society more fire for them to burn. So it's awesome, right? It's awesome. I love questioning my entire sense of existence every few months, and having to reorganize my way to look at the world, and conversations to have with people or not have them because they don't care about this whole thing and they'll only know it when it affects their consuming needs. I adore that. That's my favorite thing because I don't have any dreams. I don't have any lifelong plans. I don't have anything. I don't I only consume. I am a beast who makes things for Instagram and Twitter and whatever the fuck on bite-sized chunks. And when I'm not doing that, I am consuming, consuming, consuming. That's what I do. I am a dreamless consuming fucking bug like all of you, and that's what we're all gonna be, indifferentiated from one another, just fucking sucking the leeching all of the spirit out of things without knowing where they're made or how they're made. And that's gonna be us, man. And this liberating technology of AI, it's going to be a Pandora box to all of our worst vices put forefront, because we can't manage it. We can't manage something that good happening, something that can generate every image. We can't have something that good just happening to us. Its limitations will make it so, and by limitation I mean access, will make it so the few that get it will be. I don't even know. I'm just fucking dialoguing, monologuing to my own spiraling sanity. It's no longer worth listening to, probably for a while. I don't give a shit. I'm gonna upload this unedited. That's it. No edits. Human voice. Did I leave anything to talk about? Shit. It's gonna be one of those things that once I remember, I'm only gonna remember it when I press stop record. Like I know it. I know the moment I press to stop record this thing, I'm gonna remember the thing that I'm thinking I should say, except I can't think it because I can't remember it. Like I know it. There is something. There's something that I was thinking that I'm not remembering. Okay, we're gonna stop. No, it's not coming still. It's not coming still to my mind. It's not coming still. Not coming still. What was it? It was important. I remember it was catchy. Well, whatever. Someone will think it for me someday. Um, well, that's been my rant. If I remember, I'll write it or some comment or something. Your thoughts? Do you care? Am I a doomer? Well, you're a consumer. Haha!